Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast. I'm Young Gruff and I'm joined by Lachlan Teely.
On episode 179, what do we think about a Pirates of the Caribbean reboot? Well, that seems to be on the cards at Disney right now. Maybe they should be focusing on some other stuff, not rebooting another thing, but we'll talk about that later on in the episode.
Should change their logo color again, because they just did that. But I guess that's taking all of their focus at the moment. I watched Quiet on Set, not this podcast, but we got mistaken quite a few times over the last couple of weeks. But I watched that doc series. Then I caught Shirley, hundreds of Beavers, and I ended up watching Seinfeld. Lachlan watched Jim Jarmusch's Ghost Dog, and caught the start of Free Body Problem.
Finally, after waiting for quite a while, I was finally able to see The Promised Land. That's right, Ewan saw this ages ago, and I learned today that it's got another title called The Bastard, which is, in my opinion, way cooler. So later on in the episode, that'll be what we're talking about this week.
In Danish, it's called Bastarden, which is just amazing. So let's get up that intro and get into the show. We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there. Which actually,
did you
this
get
is
me a hat as well?
Yes.
So I've got Dune Cam. It's just a camera with my Dune Steelbook.
All right, welcome back, Lachlan. It's a week that wasn't planned for. We actually didn't plan to cover Bastarden this week, but because of a weird release schedule with Warner Brothers.
We're talking about a different bastard.
Exactly, we are not talking about the Japanese bastard Godzilla or the hairy one Kong, which I guess is already out. It's not for me yet, and I haven't seen it yet, so that's why we're gonna do a double feature bill next week, which I'm really looking forward to, because I actually told someone at Universal that when I saw, because I've already seen Monkey Man, that it would have been a great choice to do like a Barbenheimer thing with Godzilla x Monkey Man, which I guess they're doing, which is exactly what we'll be doing, at least, even if the studios aren't doing this. But yeah, that's that, a bit of a note at the front here, but that, like, because the film isn't like super accessible, so if you're watching this episode and you haven't seen The Promised Land, it's only available as a Danish VOD, so you can get that Danish VOD somehow. That's what we did, and then like get someone who made English subs for it and play that with it, so you can actually watch it. It's a bit difficult, so I assume for a lot of people they'll have to wait until it comes out on VOD to catch up with them. So if you're watching this later on, hey, welcome to you. But we'll talk about some of news items first. And Lachlan, there's some trailers that came out after Poor Things' success. We got another film that's already done, again with a bunch of recurring people. The now twice crowned Oscar winner Emma Stone is also in this one. Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film that is set to premiere on June 21st, Kinds of Kindness, had a short little teaser trailer out, and it is indeed very wonderful. I think showing, I guess, that part of, hey, these are the people who are going to be in this film. You give them basically like one close-up shot and having it cut to like good music. Because it's an anthology. No, it's not an anthology story. It's like a 3-part story, or maybe it actually is anthology, but it's not like one storyline. It's 3 different stories where I think the actors play different parts. These are always difficult to do, you know. I guess Wes Anderson does them more often than not at this point. But we haven't seen Lanthimos tackle that. It's usually a bit less commercial. But I mean, I'm very keen to check this one out, and we don't have to wait for too long.
Yeah, perfect trailer. Can't wait.
Short little teaser, doesn't tell you much, but it just gives an interesting vibe and a cast. And then, yeah, next up, June 7th, we got Bad Boys Ride or Die. They kind of fumbled the bag with this one because they called the last one Bad Boys 4 Alive, and you could have had the 4 be a 4, but that one was actually the 3rd one, and this one is the 4th. So yeah, they missed out on that. But yeah, like you said, if they play with the dynamics well between these two, I think then you can have funny bits. They probably won't all hit. It is a bit concerning the amount of like digital action you can see. It even is, I think, I don't know if this is just a Will Smith thing, or maybe he has like crazy good like clear skin, but it always feels like they blush his skin up to me be like super smooth. ever since Jiminy, man, I can't look away. It always looks digital, his face. I don't know. Maybe he's not even on set anymore at this point. That's the conspiracy I'm bringing up here. But yeah,
There's the same directors as Bad Boys for Life and
they did the Batgirl movie that never came out, that Warner Brothers scrapped. And yeah, I guess they're doing another one. I don't remember the third one being like good in my opinion. I think I didn't like it. Yeah, another one, another outing. Looks decent, nothing great. We're gonna talk about The Promised Land later on in I guess the podcast, but Evil Does Not Exist also premiered at the Venice Film Festival. It's from Ryusuke Hamaguchi, who won Oscar. Yeah, he won the one Oscar for international for Drive My Car, and he's got a new one out here, another slow moving film that I can recommend. So Lachlan, I think off of I guess the Oscar success 2 years ago, you ended up watching Drive My Car as well, right? Because it seemed like it got into Best Picture, and it is like a really slow film. And I think you didn't love it, if I remember that correctly.
I didn't say not along those words. My thing was I knew I wasn't in the right mind frame to watch it at that point. Which
to me was kind of perfect, knowing what Drive My Car is, to like watch this film, because it was so funny to see in Venice the reaction to people who were just like coming in and knew, oh, this filmmaker just won like an Oscar for his last film, and that's why I'm in here. But they clearly hadn't seen it, because like some of the reactions and discussions I heard was like, oh, this movie is like really slow. Because it's not a spoiler at all, but this film starts with like a tracking shot through the woods for multiple minutes. Nothing happens. You just go through the woods. Like that's a lot of confidence as a filmmaker to start off your movie that way. I think it doesn't close the film like as perfectly as I wanted it to like arrive at, in because it doesn't have like a clear message. It's more like observing, and again very slow. But I really liked it, and let's see if it like connects with an audience. It's out May 3rd in the States, and I assume later in the year we'll get like a VOD release, and maybe Lachlan will catch up on it as well. But yeah, something that you've been looking for a bit, because it already is out in Australia for you, Lachlan, is Force of Nature: The Dry 2. It got delayed late last year because of the strikes. They had planned, I think, in November or October release, ended up getting pushed back. It's out in Australia, not yet out in the States. It's coming out on May 10th, and I don't know about like any international release date, release dates outside of, I guess, the States and Australia. Really is out there in nature for the whole film.
The first one is set in a very rural outback town, and this is a complete opposite. It's the wet season.
Right. And
probably
it's not about like
set in Victoria.
Killer? Yeah.
And it's like the complete opposite of the previous one in terms of where it's set. I'm super keen to watch it, because the first one I didn't see it when it came out. I watched it when it came out on DVD. Same thing gonna pretty much happen on with this one as well. I never caught it in cinemas. Question for you: how much of Australian cinema have you seen?
I probably not that much. I know I've seen one from the director who Warwick Fort, I think is his name. I've seen one of his films, and then it's harder to say. I was just talking actually with the programmer, the cinema. We had like a little thing, project that we're working on, and I think in an upcoming week we had to select between an Aussie and a New Zealand Kiwi production for a film that we're gonna show, like an older film. I hadn't heard of either of them, so I probably not that familiar. But
okay.
Like, is there like that much that makes it out of Australia, or even in like, I feel like France has a lot of productions that happen within France and are celebrated and all of that. But I feel like with Australia, it's, I don't know, like a lot of Aussie actors end up going to Hollywood, and you wouldn't even know that they're Australian, because they got like really good American accents. But is there a lot of stuff that gets produced in Australia that ends up hitting theaters as well?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff made in Australia. as we know, like Godzilla versus King Kong that has just come out was shot in Queensland.
Yeah, a lot of Warner Bros.
It depends
stuff.
what you wanna. Yeah, it depends what you want to consider as like an Australian movie because I mean, Talk to Me. That's probably the most recent
Definitely.
massive Australian hit. Mad
Yeah.
Max is a great example of a film that's shot in Australia, made in Australia.
Yeah.
Well, not made in Australia. They shot in other parts, but it's very much in the original. Fury Road and whatnot shot elsewhere.
Yeah.
But have you seen any of like Jennifer Kent's stuff?
I mean,
You would have seen The Babadook, right?
I think I started watching The Babadook, but I didn't finish it.
Okay.
I don't actually have to check. Did I finish it? Did I rate it? No, I didn't finish it. I started it, but I didn't finish it.
Have you seen The Nightingale?
No, I haven't. I've seen The
Okay.
Murmuring for some reason because I only watch
Cool,
recent
cool.
stuff.
Okay,
I don't remember a
Because
single
there's
thing.
a lot of like pretty popular classic Australian films. Gallipoli is a good one. Australia.
Oh, Mary and
fucking
Max.
Baz Luhrmann. So I wonder if I should put together a list of Australian movies that you should watch so that you can get like a good taste of what's produced down here.
Yeah, one of my favorite films that I recently caught, I think a year ago or so, animated film from Adam Elliott, Max and Mary. I think that one's amazing. I don't know if you've seen that one. That's really sick.
Yes. Animated? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. But yeah, we'd love to. I mean, I'm a lover of all lists. I don't discriminate, even if they're from down under.
Alright. I'll put a
Which
list
isn't a
together.
bad thing. Yeah, lovely. But yeah, that's The Dry 2. I'll try and catch it if it ends up coming out here. I mean, yeah, I've been watching a lot of stuff that is like adapted from books. I just got the screeners for The Sympathizer, and I'm like, that's another thing, like Free Body Problem. I'm gonna talk about it in a bit. Another adaptation is just too much adapted from novels at the moment that I like kind of am interested in watching it and reading or listening to the audiobook, but I just can't find the time. I haven't even read any of Dune, and I had that planned for months. So yeah, lots to go around, but we're taking it slow, which is the name of the next trailer we're gonna take a look at. This is mainly coming in because I want to talk about it. It's really a smaller film, but I found it really emotionally engaging. Caught this in Zurich last year. I think it was also playing in Venice or some other festival, and it is now coming to theaters and probably won't take long until it's on VOD. So this might be just like really my thing. I don't know how interested you got in like from that, just watching the trailer, but I think it's just like so empathetic towards that type of struggle in a relationship where someone's asexual, the other one wants more from the person, but clearly the feelings are there. It's just like that physically they don't want the same from each other, and how do you navigate that? And it's not like playing it out in over the top moments. It's very small, and I really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it ended up being. So yeah, like I don't know, does the trailer get you interested or?
Yeah, I'd be keen. I like stories like that.
Yeah, small little story. Yeah, I wanted to shout out if you were like didn't have it on your radar. Here you go. Then lastly, Jerry Seinfeld is back, and he's directing, and he's also starring in a movie for Netflix alongside Amy Schumer and Melissa McCarthy in Unfrosted, the story about Pop-Tarts. Yeah, Lachlan, have you ever had Pop-Tarts? Have you eaten them? Not a thing in Australia. Yeah, you got your shapes, but no Pop-Tarts. Yeah, they have like a couple of them. I see them pop up sometimes, like the strawberry and chocolate ones. For some reason, make it all the way to Europe, to Switzerland as well. I've never had any of them. They just seem to be like filled to the brim with sugar, and I guess you toast them. And this is the very real story about I guess how they came to be.
What a cast.
I mean, it's Jerry Seinfeld. I guess there's some people
Yeah, true.
who would work with him. Holy Peter Dinklage. I didn't even see Peter Dinklage in the...
Yeah, I saw
Damn.
him earlier.
Christian Slater, Dan Levi, Bill Burr. Holy shit.
Not
Alright,
the big
that's...
plate.
Dean Norris is in it. Okay. John Hamm? Didn't see John Hamm. That's crazy. What trailer. Yeah, I don't know if I want to see it, because it's likely going to be, like... I don't know. Have you seen any of Seinfeld's, like, comedy? Have you watched any of that? Are you familiar with his style?
Yes, I have.
like the series or his stand-ups, or what are you familiar with?
Bit of both.
Gotcha. Well, I'll talk about this later in the episode, but I started watching Seinfeld for the first time in 2024. Yes, and I mean the guy, it's even like a bit in one of the episodes that he can act, and I think that is a true issue. They make fun of it in universe, but it clearly is a real thing that I don't know. And I also think his comedy when he does stand up isn't really funny. So that being dragged out into a whole like movie, where the joke is basically, isn't it crazy that the Pop-Tarts exist and it's a huge rivalry? And then you got Amy Schumer and Melissa McCarthy, who often attach themselves to pretty unfunny projects. It doesn't give me a lot of confidence that this will end up being good. And a lot of the like extended casts are also going to be like in smaller roles, so there's less risk. To me, it doesn't really show that there's like something that like someone anchored themselves to this project that would say it would stand out in these like product type comedy movies. It doesn't look like a Blackberry by any stretch of the imagination, or like a more of an Air where you got like a lot of on-screen talent that has chemistry with each other. It feels like, hey, wouldn't this be a funny premise? And Netflix is gonna jump the gun on I guess adapting it. May 3rd, we don't have to wait for it too long. It's just one toast away.
It's a very busy day.
It is a very busy day, right? Evil Does Not Exist, Slow, and Unfrosted all coming out on that same day. But yeah, that's it for the trailers this week. Then when it comes to the news, in the news, we were in the news oftentimes with Quiet on Set. The dark side of kids TV. Yeah, that had a lot of people talking online about it, and I guess looking up Quiet on Set, and I think they confused us with that. I don't know if we have a podcast at the end, so I don't know if they thought we're going to talk about it just because we just did the last like 4 years of content just in preparation for, I guess, this series to come out. And
just for this.
Here you are. If you subscribe because of it, here's your moment. I ended up watching the series. I think Lachlan is also gonna end up watching it, so we're talking about it more extensively next week. But a 5th episode has been ordered to I guess release on April 7th. I think Drake Bell is back after the reaction of it coming out. I think they're gonna talk a bit more. One of my main critiques is that of the series, and I thought ultimately it's not a good product, is that it really quickly shifts into revealing stuff when uncovering the stuff that is pretty widely known already. You should focus on something else. You should focus on the hurt, or on, I guess, airing more of that stuff out and making it public so people are aware of it, and like the malpractices that still happen to this day and what you can do about it. But instead it's way more interested in the clickbaity stuff of, we have Drake Bell talking about like his trauma for 40 minutes, which in itself is interesting, but it's I don't know, I think overall the approach about it with the true crime angle and like wasn't, I think it was kind of in poor taste. I didn't like that too much. But yeah, Lachlan, you gotta tell me what you think of it next week. We all grew up on the Pirates of the Caribbean films, right? We watched them. I definitely did. Watched all of them. I didn't miss like 1 or 2 of them or something like that. But hey, Disney is running out of, I guess, new park rides to adapt. And here you got a pretty sturdy franchise that is now not looking for another outing in the already established series, but looking for a reboot. So yeah, what do we think of this, Lachlan? Is this a good call early enough? Did they wait long enough to reboot it?
Well, it's been a good amount of years since we've had one. It's been a good amount of years since we've had a good one. So what they do will be interesting. I know it's going to be worse because they're going to use the fucking dome, and it's not going to look as good as an actual boat. We'll see. We'll see.
They're always going to just be in a puddle of water. You know, they can't extend it.
Yeah.
So it's like a ship, but they're locked on the ship.
I love the first 2 films, like really do, but the third one at World's End made it so big and large scale that I didn't like it, but I still enjoyed it. The rest of them lost that sort of flair for it, and they became a lot more Indiana Jonesy more than anything else. They were like hunting for treasure more than actually being pirates. So And it can work. They could definitely make that work, but they didn't. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, because at the heart of the Pirates movies is Jack Sparrow, and that's Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is Jack Sparrow. Johnny Depp is now a lot older, and I don't think it would be smart to have him come back. I don't think it would be smart for
marketing wise as well, probably optics wise, because
that's look, if we move past the whole Amber Heard and him thing, that they dropped him and whatnot, I just don't think it's a good role for him. I feel like he should do more interesting stuff. I think he should go
more
elsewhere.
Jean Dubarry.
Yeah,
talking French.
More Jean Dubarry? No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. But like, let him do something else. Let him come up with a fun character. Let him do something other than that. But yeah, I just don't think it would be smart to have him back. But I don't know. Let's see what they do, right? Disney's great for making stuff at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Amazing.
Trying to find someone who agrees. Hello, does anyone agree?
Upside down world down there. They're all giving thumbs up, but it's actually thumbs down. But I mean, this begs the question: who's the next Jack Sparrow? And my first thought is immediately Austin Butler, and I don't know why, but that's just like my thought. It was like
Timothy Chalamet.
God, that would be horrible. That would be horrible, man. But I don't know. I don't know if I have anyone else in mind.
Pedro Pascal,
because he is overcast in everything. Yes, give him yet another franchise that he can be the face of. I don't know. If it's like a fun pirate series, I don't think we've gotten a lot of that outside of like Pirates of the Caribbean. And like you said, they've become more adventure movies than they've become like actual like pirate films. And yeah, I would be looking forward to a good one if they make another good one, because the first two were pretty solid. But yeah, that's it for the news this week. In the meantime, you can leave us a rating on Spotify and an Apple Podcast. Goes a long way to get us into, these film festivals, getting stuff early, which, by the way, I did book my flight and my place in Cannes, so I will be attending all 11 days of the festival. Gonna be a busy time. I'm looking forward to it. Lachlan, this is more for the two of us. The place I got is actually like way closer than the last two times I've been. It's like closer to the station. I don't have to like walk that much because
nice.
It's pretty steep there. So it's like actually gonna be pretty nice, hopefully. And yeah, I'm gonna try and break our record of watch the amount of movies that we see, because last year, there was a lot of long movies, and hopefully it won't be that many long movies, so I can sneak in a couple more. But yeah, by rating us, leaving us a rating, subscribing on YouTube, leaving a like, sharing, all of that stuff helps us to, get into these festivals, so it's greatly appreciated. And if you want to monetarily support us, if you use our Amazon links below and purchase anything, we get a bit of a kickback from it, so that's also very much appreciated. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's get to the stuff that we've been watching this week. All right, Lachlan, what have you been up to?
So, watch The Promised Land. And we did do a little short review for Kev winning out of the three of us, getting the most Oscar nominations correct. I did watch both Election 1 and 2. Thoughts can be found on that separate video. I watched 2 episodes of 3 Body Problem, and if I'm honest, a little bit iffy about it still at the moment. I read through the entire Wikipedia page and I was very intrigued. I found it quite interesting, so I'd like to see how it plays out.
Of the book or the novel or
the narrative of the book,
the series.
So I would be interested to see where it goes. I think that they've got a visual style down packed, but I don't think they've got really much to chew on yet. But we'll see if they fuck it up or not. But they might fuck it up after 7 seasons, so gotta wait a little bit. There's a Game of Thrones joke.
Yeah, I got it.
I also watched Ghost Dog. If anyone hasn't seen Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai, it stars Forrest Whitaker. There was a 4K re-release that came out recently, and let me go get it. One sec, let me get it. That's very important.
Yes, please. Which, by the way, free body. Did you show me Ghost? Yeah, no, you showed me Ghost Dog. Yeah.
Ghost Dog, 4K. Yeah, it was fantastic. Absolutely adored my time with this. I can highly recommend it. It's a cult classic, and it sounds like a movie that no one really wants to watch. If you read what it's about, everyone kind of just goes, "The fuck is this movie about?" But I had a great time with it. I gave it 4 stars as a watch. Really had a lot of fun, and yeah, it's one of those like last of like the 1990s movies that just had that look and feel to it before everything went digital, and this film oozes that style. But yeah, no, 100%. I would recommend this to pretty much anybody.
Recommend
it. Was just a lot of fun.
I will get to it sooner than later myself. Again, I haven't seen it, but getting it on 4K might be worth it. But Jim Jarmusch, also a bit of a blind spot. I don't know if you've seen much of his filmography or where you at. Would be worth revisiting, and I heard he's got a new project in the works that's maybe coming out next year. I'd love to do like a revisited series on him and then a bracket, because he's got some iconic films in his filmography. But yeah, that's the stuff that you've been watching. I also caught some stuff. Like I said, I watched Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV. I didn't like it. My rating is way lower than a lot of people that have seen it. Apparently, I gave it like a 2.5 out of 5. Ultimately, like, I think it's important to talk about that stuff, the way that they present it in this like true crime-ish format with a lot of like the typical like zoom ins, and the editing is just it's like unbearable for people who like true crime. Maybe they and watch that stuff, they might be used to it and they're not bothered by it. But if you actually care about like the subject that they're tackling, and it's like this editing and like the way that they use sound is just so not fitting, and I thought like this whole thing didn't get the tone correct that I wanted to have. But that's maybe a personal preference. Maybe you don't mind, and then I guess it is a pretty good assembly of uncovering what went on behind the scenes of Nickelodeon. But yeah, that's that. Again, we are getting another episode early in April. I watched Shirley. That's a Netflix release. We got Rustin, and now we got Shirley. So you got a lot of like important black figures who had ripple effects in very important ways, I guess, in the 60s and 70s. And this one is even more bland than Rustin, unfortunately, and it doesn't have like that central Coleman Domingo performance that still like has something to it. Here with Regina King, I just didn't like that. There was just nothing really there for me to actually care about the film. Obviously, the story itself about Shirley Chisholm is way more interesting, but yeah, just biopics are not my thing, and this one didn't change my mind. Something that I can really full-heartedly recommend is Hundreds of Beavers. And like, you have to look this up. This is a small little movie. I think it had its first premiere in 2022 at Fantastic Fest and has been playing at festivals since, as a theatrical limited run, and I got a screener for it. I assume it's going to be on VOD pretty soon, but it's basically this like really crazy story about like slapstick. Imagine a slapstick cartoon, but it's in live action, and it actually is funny. And like, cool. It's so the logline reads: in the 19th century, a drunken Applejack salesman must go from zero to hero and become North America's greatest fur trapper by defeating hundreds of beavers. And it's essentially like this loop of established places and things that we get, and essentially we got jokes after jokes after jokes that are building on each other, and this world that gets built through nonstop jokes. It is so entertaining. I had a smile the whole way through while watching this. And yeah, can very much recommend. Off the podcast, I do have a screener for you if you want to. I already shared it with someone else as well that I thought would appreciate it. But yeah, keep that on your radar. I saw that Cole and Justin from the Osbergs had also reviewed it recently. I think it's in theaters in the States at the moment. So yeah, go give it a try if you want to. And then after the loss of my cat, I've been a bit down, so I wasn't really in the mood of being as productive as possible as I usually do, watching a ton of new releases that I can rattle off from in this what we've been watching segment. What I ended up doing is cuddling with my other cat, who's not around. I think he doesn't like it when I'm recording. And I ended up watching 4 seasons of Seinfeld this week. It was just on Netflix. So I was like,
Cool.
all right, let's put it up. Which came from me watching 2 episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and it was a joke about like that where they're at a restaurant and they can't get a table, and it's about Larry David, who's the co-creator of Seinfeld and the writer, and they're basically saying, oh, it's Cherry, it's Larry, who the co-founder of Seinfeld. Give him a table. And I was like, hold up, I'm watching basically a sequel series to Seinfeld. I gotta watch the original first, which is, I guess, 7 or 9 seasons of that. Like 200 episodes or something like that of that show. So I guess let's get to work and catching up on a sitcom. Stuff that isn't made anymore unless it's, I guess, a prequel like Young Sheldon that still uses a laugh track. You don't see that being used, so sitcoms being around. And it's a product of its time. I don't think it's like aged that poorly. Obviously, there's like stuff that doesn't fly anymore. But I feel like you can, especially in comedy, you can see if it like the intent is bad and exploitative and just dumb, or if it's just like a product of its time and the people within it are just like operating on the cultural, like, I guess whatever is like the norm. And I feel like Seinfeld is more that, and it's also poking fun of it at all of its characters when they got bad traits, without like stripping them down to what we often feel inclined to do. Where, like for example, the recent Avatar adaptation on Netflix, you can have Sako. What's his name? Soko or Sako?
Sucker.
Saka. Sorry. You can't have like Saka be sexist because like that's a bad trait, and our characters don't have progression and bad traits and evolve. He's not, I guess, sexist. He's just a guy, and a guy who falls in love, which like strips them down of what makes them interesting. And Seinfeld is really leaning into like the bad traits of all of their characters, and I'm having a pretty good time with it. From what I thought it would be, I thought this was like this comedy series that I don't get why people like it, and I actually am laughing quite a bit myself watching it. So it's been a treat to watch that. And then Anthony Chen. I loved his last film, Breaking Ice. I thought that was really good. And he had another film that didn't really get a lot of traction. It's out on VOD now, with Cynthia Erivo and Alia Shawkat. And essentially, it's just about an immigrant who's stranded, a refugee who's stranded on a Greek island alone by herself and has like trauma she has to go through. And I think it revisits that trauma like again and again in a way that could feel like very like, I don't know, it could feel like it's redundant, but here I think it kind of builds. Ultimately, I was surprised that I liked it quite a bit. So that's Drift out on VOD, but that's all the stuff that I've been watching this week. And like Lachlan said, there's a review out for Election 1 and 2 that we did with Kev, so go give that a try. Johnny Toe, Hong Kong cinema, worth your time. All right, Lachlan, it is time for Mads Mikkelsen leading another project, The Promised Land, which I guess I get why it's not called Bastarden or The Bastard when they promote it here or internationally with an English title. But Bastarden is just such a fun title to say. So it's kind of what I want to do. But like I said at the top of the show, this one isn't out in on digital at the moment, internationally only in Denmark, I believe, and you can, I think, get the Blu-ray sale of it already. But if you can't see it right now, I know it's coming out, I think, a month from now in Switzerland. It's out pretty soon. So yeah, should maybe hit your theaters, or you can get your hands on it some other way. But yeah, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna spoil it a bit as well, but we're gonna start off not being too specific about it. But certainly, I think from the both of us, worth seeing and I guess discussing is what we're gonna do next. So yeah, Lachlan, could you give us the logline of Bastarden?
The story of Ludwig Karlen, who pursued his lifelong dream to make the Heath bring him wealth and honor.
Is this a story about Dune? Like to bring my Dune, my Heath, bring me spice, and here
May
it's
my
just
Heath chip and shatter.
potato. It's a potato knife. Yeah, it comes from Nikolaj Arcel, who is a Danish director who did have, I think, an upswing in the type of stuff he got to do. Like he was the director of The Dark Tower, which is an adaptation right of about to say Steven Spielberg. What's his name?
Stephen King.
Stephen King, yeah, the King, not the Spielberg. And that one just like kind of bombed and didn't do well. It got really bad ratings, and I guess he didn't get to do like a lot of films after this. He's credited to have had the idea of Riders of Justice. That's another a Danish movie that stars Mads Mikkelsen. That one didn't like hit as much as Another Round Drunk did a couple of years back. He's made some films, you know. He wrote the screenplay for Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, not the one that the one from Fincher, but he made one of them. And here he's back with a story about a feudal dispute between a army captain who sets on a pretty impossible journey or on a quest to make the heath, I guess, be farmland in a way, when the heath was previously seen as not farmable. But the king of Denmark is really set on expanding in that direction, having settlers there and making it fruitful. From what we get is then this dispute with a nobleman that lives up there, De Schinkel. And it's basically a ruthless guy who seems to be very bored with the world around him, so the only way he can kind of see like it motivates him is basically just by destruction, and chaos is something that he brings up again and again. But yeah, I'm basically going already into my review already, but it's been received pretty positively from the limited amount of people who have seen it already. 3.9 on Letterboxd, 7.7 on IMDb, and a 77 on Metacritic. It's 127 minutes long and had a budget of roughly $9 million. It's only made about $1 million back. So yeah, it's a bit disappointing. I think if this one had picked up the Oscar nomination, it would have gotten a better American release. And I gotta say, this is another one that should have made it onto the final five. There's a couple films that I would take out to get Bastarden on there. I think it's really good. Lachlan, yeah, what did you make of it, right? You liked it quite a bit yourself.
Yeah, I had an absolute ball of a time. Wasn't really sure what I was getting myself into. I heard the word Western thrown around. I heard the word masterpiece thrown around. I heard the phrase slow thrown around. But I've heard a mixture of it all. But for me, I had quite a positive time with it. I think first and foremost, I have to say this. I have to kind of confess this. Say it out loud so everyone understands. I fucking love Mads Mikkelsen. I fucking love Mads Mikkelsen. I don't give a fuck what that man is in. I don't care what language he is speaking. I will watch it. I will cry for this man because he is absolutely fantastic with everything he does. So, first and foremost, Mads Mikkelsen, great performance. Not his best, but an absolute great performance nonetheless. I think that goes the same for everybody else. And Barbara, especially De Schinkel as well. I feel like him as a villain was really fun to watch because he was an absolute bastard of a guy. And I hated him, and he set himself a goal to make me hate him, and he did a great job with that. And I feel like everyone else did an incredible job. Along with that, the cinematography, fantastic. You can't really fuck up beautiful landscapes. As long as you just shoot them at the right time, you're going to get a great shot, and they do that. I think that it was really interesting to see it throughout the year, even during like the moments where there's frost and there's sort of a fog over the land. There's just the sun. You can see it through the fog. It's bearing through, but the frost is all there. Like it's very beautiful, and that shot kind of juxtaposes like there's a big sun out there that can get rid of all of this. It's fantastic. So the cinematography is absolutely incredible. But standout is just the story. Yeah. Mads Mikkelsen, a bastard of royal blood. He's fought his way in the military to be a captain of a high rank, which took him years. And now he wants that higher honor, and he's going to do that the one way he knows how and cultivate land that's said to be unusable. So watching him have this goal in mind, have a target and how he wants to get there, and the actual journey he goes on and how he develops as a person, thinking that he doesn't need these other things. He wants this, high status life. which once he starts interacting with someone of that high status, Desinkle, he sees that, he has nothing, right? He's hated. He's a terrible person. It's really juxtaposed this idea of this high honorable society that he wants to be a part of, when really that high honorable society is nothing. And it's actually this family he makes on the way that ends up being way more important for him. And I find that was really engaging to watch. And also the extent he will go to achieve the goal that he wants to get. So for me, the narrative of this film is chef kiss.
Yeah, it's like he basically wants to cultivate this land, but ends up cultivating a life that he didn't have before, because he was basically all in service of, like, when he talks to Edel and she kisses him at that party for the first time. He basically says, well, this has probably been the longest conversation I've ever had with a woman. From how much of a blank slate he is going into this film. Basically being a bastard child, then serving 25 years in the military to get the same rank that a nobleman gets in 6 months. Making his way up the defying odds, just like pushing through, being very calculated and observing of the world, bringing order into chaos is what his character's path is on. And the Schinkel is so beautifully the antithesis of that. He's believes in that there's only chaos in the world, but doesn't realize that he's the one creating the chaos, when he very much could be standing for order. And what he ends up going towards is more of trying to grab onto that control to, like, I guess, be chaotic but bring order to things. And like where he kind of falls short in what he does. Such a beautiful narrative, man. So easy to root for the guy who's constantly physically, but also like in social interactions, basically spit into the face with every single remark that gets thrown his way, and staying calm, going on your path, like getting where you want to be, not taking shortcuts, and what the sacrifices he has to make, but then making a family along the way. I found it like super emotional where it arrives at, all of the little the relationships that he takes care of. And again, like when the sacrifices are made, like when decisions are made for him, I think is where you can really see like the playing a character that doesn't really talk much. He's a man of action. And a lot of the time, it's like him hesitating to make a decision, and then he makes a decision, and that's where all of the acting is happening for Mads. And like, I don't want to spoil it too much again because it's not accessible for anyone just yet. But the way this movie ends on him realizing something that's a bit of a tie back to an earlier moment, to me was so beautiful. But it's like, if you look at the scene by itself, there's nothing going on when you just look at the guy. But then all of it leading up to it is like so incredibly emotional, and there's not like that much happening in the scene. I was like, that's a great film. If a simple scene at the end where you just look at your character evokes emotion out of you, then the narrative has done something right. The performance has gone right every step along the way. I also think it's like, it looks so beautiful, man. This movie looks so beautiful. I had to pause it a couple of times. I saw this in Venice last time. I couldn't just go, hey, technician, pause this real quick, rewind real quick, and I could this time. And it's like, dude, there's some sequences that are worthy of using as your wallpaper. Just a lot of like really great framing choices, no shortcuts being taken, like a lot of like bird's eye view kind of top down shots of people like moving around to make the moments more effective. And I was stunned by this film. I loved it even more on the rewatch. And what a great film, man. What a great film.
This is almost an epic in a way. I would say that it's an epic in scale, even though the story is quite small and personal. I think that there's a lot of layers to it, and I think that there's a lot of layers to the character of Mads Mikkelsen that's portrayed just through his eyes. Like, Mads can just act through his eyes. It's incredible, and you can tell that he's mad. But for me, it's his evolution of hating a particular group of people to making friends with them. These really interesting analogies of, the beetle. Mouse was I can't remember her full name, but the small child that ended with Mouse. She was scared of like this beetle, and then this group of settlers come in, they're scared of the little girl, and he goes, well, you were afraid of the beetle, and they were afraid of, of you, a small child. So it's the same kind of analogy. So it was like little tiny things like that that really, really made the film just come together. But no, I think that it's an incredible feat to have everything sort of come together and just work really well. I don't think there's any sort of downfalls with the film. I think that it holds on moments really well when what's his name passes away, the partner, when he's burnt from the hot water. All you hear is him screaming, and the faces of all of these high up honorable people kind of just being like, this is fucked up, I don't want to deal with this, but no one's stepping in to say anything. And it's like, well, why does no one do that? So it's crazy, the inhumane things that other humans did to each other. And it's funny to think that he was a soldier, he went through a war, there were bloody things that happen in war. You don't see that. This is normal life, and this is what happens in normal life, which is crazy. So it's those little tiny things that really made this world feel a lot thicker and denser, and really something to chew on. And it's a world that I'm not used to exploring, right? I grew up in Australia. We have very barren wastelands, and not all of it is great for cultivating crops. You can kind of relate to the whole uncultivating crop area and him pushing away with that. But like the landscape in this is, in my opinion, way more beautiful than some of the landscapes that we have in Western Australia. It's all just pretty much red dirt here. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this film. The Bastard's a way cooler name though.
Right, you gotta stick with Bastarden or the Bastard, Which I guess the Promised Land is not what it's called. Because the Promised Land, I think, is not that great a title. Here in Switzerland, it's also called the King's Land, because that's something that he says a couple times. He's on the King's Land, and he's like, that's just like something that guy says, that Ludwig says a couple of times to, I guess, justify being here when people say he's not supposed to be here. It's like, no, that's the support he has. But it's also interesting that we never see the face of the king. They never show the face of the king. It's just like at the back of him. So it's like such he's not that important. It's never personal. We don't get a face of that guy. He just because we don't see the face of the king as much as the king does not give a single fuck that Colin is the one doing this. It's just that he wants this to be cultivated, and how distant that is, like the ranks that he wants to rise, and he's his closest ally with the king, basically not being someone that he's familiar with, and his whole journey being the people from the land that is helping him get to his goal is ultimately like where he wants to be. And those going away or being taken or whatever ends up happening is like ultimately what the story focuses on. Beautiful, contrasting narrative beats. This is one that you notice, not even while you're watching, but you're like, oh yeah, there's a little contrast that kind of plays beautifully here. And it never feels like it's at the sake of we need a contrast to this, so that's why that is happening. I think the only thing that you could maybe criticize this film for is that the Schinkel is really over the top in parts, and maybe some people are turned off by that when the rest of it is a bit more subdued. But I feel like it works for at least for me. I that was one of my concerns and one of the things that I didn't love on my first watch. But Simon Bieneberg, Fredrik the Schinkel, the guy who plays him, really just, I loved his performance. It was so despicable. And I was really in there. And then the smaller performance of Kristin Forp, who I had the pleasure of interviewing, one of my first interviews that I ever did for Ninja Baby, and seeing her do more of these films. She's Norwegian, not Danish. That's why that's something that we don't really pick up on, right? When there's someone who was sent there from a different country, so she has an accent when she's speaking Danish with other people, all of those nuances. The only thing I noticed that they were really confident in Mads doing a German voice as a Nazi in Indiana Jones, and I already knew his German voice was shit. Well, I guess Indiana Jones I saw before I saw this one, but when he speaks German here, I think it's more apparent. I don't know if you picked up on it, that his German sounds different than the actual guy. Did you hear the differences or not?
Sure.
Not really.
Yeah. My ears are so tuned in for that. Yeah.
It's fine tuned to that. But that's something that I pick up on. But he's not supposed to be German. So in this context, it works perfectly. In Indiana Jones, it didn't really work. But I really like this film. I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5 on my rewatch. Moved it up from a 4 to that. And yeah, can very much recommend it. What about you, Lachlan?
I gave the film a 4 stars out of 5. Willing to push it up a little bit, but I felt like the film should have ended on the final close-up of Mads Mikkelsen, not the next few frames that come along. I see why they did it, but hey, whatever. But yeah, 4 stars is still a sick amount of stars to give this film.
Definitely worth seeing. So yeah, let's pair it up with another film. Double feature time, Lachlan. What are you picking?
So I also wanted to pick a movie about a very little spoken as possible character wanting to do one particular thing, but has to go through a series of violent events to get what they have to achieve. Which is why I'm picking Nicolas Cage, Pig.
Pig.
Yeah.
Interesting choice there. Wait, isn't the Pig director doing like a big movie next?
I have no idea, but I'm about to find out.
Quiet Place Day
Cool.
One.
There you
That's
go.
his film that he's doing. Yeah, interesting choice there. I had a bit of trouble with this one because Kevin, who saw this one with me in Venice, we already had a review on our extensive recap for that festival months back. I said this is clearly a Western film, and I don't really agree with him. That I don't really see that happening, but I guess
drama.
it's as close as he said. It's as close as we can get to like a European Western. But I see the parallels, like the Indians, and then you got not the nomads. You got the gypsies that are going around.
Vagabonds.
The vagabonds, exactly. It's like there's some parallels on the disputes, like the new guy in town, I guess, and it's like the barren wasteland. I didn't see that, so I'm gonna include Kevin's double feature because he did have one. He went with Unforgiven, which I haven't seen yet, but it just sounds like it's probably, if you feel like it's a Western, it's probably a pretty good pick. But I went more literally with the names here. We got The Promised Land or Bastarden. So I guess like you could double feature this with Inglourious Bastards, which by the way is misspelled. It's not bastards with an A, but with an E. That's intentional. Or just, I don't know, because I felt like it La La Land, because like The Promised Land, La La Land, why not? Why not watch something a bit more colorful and happy? But yeah, they don't really thematically tie in. But those are my double feature picks. There's a couple of new releases this week, out on April 5th in cinemas. We are getting Monkey Man. We're going to talk about that one next week alongside Godzilla x Kong, which comes out in Switzerland but is already out internationally. Then The First Omen is also hitting theaters this week, another horror film. Then we got a couple of films that are coming out on digital. First up, The American Society of Magical Negroes is coming out. Then we got Musica over on Prime, Girl State on Apple TV Plus. Sugar, the Colin Farrell-led Apple TV Plus show, starts airing this week. We also finally are getting How to Have Sex on VOD and Mubi in the States. I thought for some reason this one was out for weeks already, or months even, but no, it's finally now out of theaters and on digital. Knox Goes Away. Michael Keaton directed a film that got like devastating reviews about a guy who I guess has short-term memory loss or long-term memory loss, and it's like a thriller, but then he conveniently remembers like things at the perfect time. That's how it was described to be. Doesn't look great, but I might make time to catch that one. Then we got Scoop on Netflix and Ridley, which is a limited series starring Andrew Scott. And then The Zone of Interest with the A24 HBO deal is landing on Max. Then out in limited release, we got Woody Allen's Coup de Chance, which I found pretty unfunny. But hey, that's out. Another film that Lachlan didn't like. The Old Oak is also out in limited release in the States. And then The Greatest Hits is the final one we're going to shout out. But that's it for this week. Again, next week we are doing Godzilla x Monkey Man. Looking forward to chatting about those two films. I can't say anything about Monkey Man yet. It's still under strict embargo. I can't even give you the thumbs up or down. But yeah, next week we're going to talk all spoilers for both of these films. And we're probably also going to do a little bracket or ranking for for the US-made Godzilla and some of the King Kong films. I think that's what's in store there. We have to fine-tune what exactly is going to go into that list. But yeah, we're going to talk we have plenty to talk about next week. But yeah, until then, go watch movies, and yeah, we'll see you next week. See you then. Bye.
Bye.